should be broadcasting now. So let's give it a second and see what YouTube says. YouTube says we're live. How's it going, everybody? This is obviously a very first attempt at us using the GH5 Mark II to be live streaming directly from here in Austin, Texas. We are actually down by the lake. And basically, we're going to be shadowing Ambassador Todd White here on a photo shoot and covering questions that everyone may have about how everything works, how our setup is all, kind of rigged up here. And so everyone's aware, we're using the GH5 Mark II, connecting into my mobile device for a 5G hotspot, sending the signal up to YouTube. This is one of the new features that the GH5 Mark II offers for people that are doing basically what we're trying to do here. One of the other side benefits, because we know a lot of people have been asking us the questions about autofocus on the camera, this is also using our face detect autofocus in just so I can actually walk away from the camera. And what else? We're flying this on a Ronin DJI Ronin RSC2 with the Sennheiser AVX lavalier. So I'm going to just pull up the YouTube comments here so we can actually monitor what everyone is asking us throughout this stream. So I apologize if this is a little rough. This is, like I said, the first time we're actually doing this live for our broadcasts. So we'll pull this up. Let me turn my volume down and let's pull up the comments. All right, I see everyone in the chat. Cool. So, like always with Lumix Live, if you guys have questions, make sure to tag at Lumix Cameras so I can see it in the chat. We may not be as active with the questions here because we've got a lot of moving parts going on to make sure that we've got everything covered and that the quality's coming out really good to you guys. But yeah, we'll be monitoring and answering questions that everyone has. So with that, let's see here. I think I've rambled on enough. Let's bring Todd White in here. And how's it going, Todd?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, too. Hopefully everyone can hear because I'm a little strapped.
This is great. This is really cool.
I can see myself on the phone here.
Yep.
This is pretty cool.
Yep. Looks good.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone can hear. We're a little limited on my microphone setup here, so I just got the one AVX. So I'm going to do this now, and we're going to, kind of old school this. So we're here in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
Our backyard.
Yes, it is.
And obviously, we're going to be shadowing you on a photo shoot and just kind of answering questions, taking questions from the community. Could you give us a little bit of a background for those who may not know you as to who you are, what you do for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Todd White, and I'm a Lumix Global Ambassador, and I came on board probably about 1.5 years ago or so and was really focused on the S-series of the cameras. I'm also a producer and one of the videographers for a Texas travel show on PBS. In fact, I just came back from 3 days in Big Bend at about 112 heat index, and then I spent a couple days recently in Lake Jackson, Texas, filming. Just got back late last night. So, been on the road since the pandemic is sort of slowing down some.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're back out producing. We got 13 episodes to film, so
hey,
here
man,
we go.
People want to get back out and travel, and they want to have some good tips on where to go.
Yeah. But when I'm not on the road, then I do create a lot of content for local boutiques, fashion designers. I work with some of the designers from Project Runway and a few boutiques around Austin as well. So I've got Mel that's going to be here with me today. Mel, come on over here real quick and say hey, since we're live. You can at least pop your head in right there. So I'm going to work with Mel today, and we're going to do a nice fashion shoot. But the big thing is about the GH5 Mark II and the live streaming capabilities, which this camera's great. I've shot with it now for about a month or so and played with it, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Solid autofocus, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time, and I'm excited that we're able to actually test this and have it, show everybody what these capabilities are possible now with the new camera. But obviously, we're filming on this, and you're going to be photographing on something else. So
Yes.
what's your kit for today?
So my kit for today is going to be the LUMIX S5, which this is just really my go-to camera. I love this camera. It's fantastic. So the S5, and I have the new 51.8 on here right now. And then in my bag, I've also got the 85 1.8, and then I have the new Sigma 35 1.4, their brand new DGDN that came out as well, which is fantastic. I just love a good 1.4.
Oh, yeah.
It's just too beautiful. And then, of course, the cage on here is my smaller rig cage. This pretty much lives on my camera because I go back and forth between the photo and the video side a lot. So it's super handy.
Very cool. Yep. Well, so with that, we'll let you guys get to shooting, and I'm going to check some of the questions that everyone's got, and we'll go from there.
Let's do it.
Cool. So let me get this thing all set back up here. Let's see what kind of questions y'all have had. All right. So, jumping through the questions here. As we said, I've got this on the Ronin RSC2. I am not that great with working on gimbals, so I apologize if it drives you guys crazy, and obviously for the noise too. But yeah, let's see what kind of questions we got here. Missed the start. Are you streaming over Wi-Fi tether? Yes, so we are broadcasting live right now from downtown Austin, Texas. I'll turn the camera around here so you guys can see. We are at one of the local parks right down the street that has really good cell service here for 5G. And yeah, this is connecting from the camera to my mobile device and broadcasting from there. So good question. Let's see what other questions we got here. If I can make sure and do all of this at one time, this would be amazing. All right. What other questions we got here? Of course, YouTube's chat is going to just be all kinds of fun today. Awesome. All things film. Thanks for coming. Slowly being turned. Grabbing an S5, Mr. Tech. Awesome. AF is important for backup on cameras. It definitely can be. Well, cool. So, just as we were saying before, the whole purpose of today's stream, you know, we've been talking a lot about the, you know, kind of GH5 Mark II over the last month, and we've wanted to kind of round out this month's worth of streams with using the GH5 Mark II in one of the new features that the camera's offered, and that's the live streaming functionality. So, you know, we've been testing this for a couple of weeks. I've been down here doing a lot of tests, and again, sorry for the little bit of a shaky camera, still getting used to this gimbal. And just, yeah, wanted to round out this month's worth of GH5 Mark II content and just have a conversation with everybody, you know, answer questions that everyone may have. But let's see here. We see a couple of questions. Andy's asking, what is the camera settings? So for this shoot, I have the GH5 Mark II set up in the Wi-Fi mode, using the live streaming functionality linked into the LUMIX Sync app. That's going to actually be updating probably within the next, well, actually the app is publicly available right now, so you can download and make sure you got the app updated if you've already got a GH5 Mark II pre-ordered, so that once it ships you'll be able to connect in and do this. The camera itself, as far as settings go, we're streaming at 1080p 60 frames per second using the 8 megabit per second preset. This is so that we make sure that we're right in with YouTube's kind of recommended settings. YouTube has obviously certain ranges that they want you to be streaming in to make sure that obviously the quality's good. And again, I should probably mention too, apologize for any kind of wind noise with the microphone. Still getting this whole thing set up, you know. But yeah, so the camera's on 1080p 60 frames per second, which is what we normally broadcast at. 8 megabit per second using shutter priority. So I've got the camera set to 180 degree shutter angle, and that's letting the 12 to 60 millimeter lens control exposure as well as ISO. So basically trying to show off how you can use this camera as, you know, kind of simple and straightforward if you're not used to working with this. Let me just screw my gimbal up here by knocking into my phone mount so I can see myself here. And just to let everyone know too, it is like 97 degrees here in Austin, so a little crazy just for how hot it is. So the original plan for this stream is we're going to run for about 40 minutes, just to make sure that, you know, we're not going too crazy with the heat and everything going on, and just, you know, kind of, again, have a conversation with everybody. Let's see. As a reminder, if you guys have questions about the shoot, what Todd's doing, what I'm doing here, talking about the camera, let me know in the chat. I got the chat open here, so we're able to address questions for you. You have to remember to look right at the lens, not at the screen, too. So let's flip this around. All right. Let's see what questions now. Patrick is asking, Lumix cameras, any idea if it will be possible to send the upcoming IP stream over USB-C, one camera to power, and stream a signal to the PC? I would have to check on what's going to actually be coming with the upcoming firmware announcement. Obviously, we've announced that the GH5 Mark II is going to get a wired IP streaming functionality with the camera in future updates, but I don't really have enough information on that yet. So as we get closer, I'll obviously get you guys more info. Let's see, what other questions? All film, is the GH5 Mark II out yet? It will be coming out soon. Different regions, obviously, it's going to depend on, you know, the region that you're in and when it's going to be available, but yeah, they should be shipping soon. Angel's asking, will the S1 be getting this live streaming feature in a future update? Honestly, no idea. I would love to see this update in future cameras and options that we have, because, you know, as we're doing here, this is a pretty cool way to be able to, you know, add that extra level to your production. If you're a wedding or an event photographer and your client's asking you for things like BTS video and footage, this could be a really sick way to actually, you know, add something that your clients are probably going to like, or, you know, that they're really going to want. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else on the camera settings. Other than, you know, we're using the XLR1 audio adapter on this camera. So it's, this has the Sennheiser AVX lav mic system plugged into it, and it's balanced on the RSC2 gimbal. So, you know, we've got a pretty, I'd say, bog standard setup that I think a lot of people out there would be using. The one thing that I will say, when you've got this thing set up, when you're doing the live streaming, you don't have the ability to have the USB connected in for control of the camera on the actual gimbal itself. So it's a little bit of a different, you know, kind of challenge there. But that's one of the reasons why I have the camera set up the way I do. I've got the ISO set to auto and the aperture set to auto, so we're in shutter priority, which means that the camera is just making sure that my shutter speed is locked at 180 degrees, so in this case 120th of a second for shutter speed, and making sure that it adjusts. I'm going to turn away because I'm pretty sure I'm deafening everybody with the sound of wind on my microphone. So this basically just means that the camera is automatically adjusting the ISO and the aperture, so you're getting that smooth transition from bright highlights to dark shadows. So as I'm moving right now in the shade, it's using face detect autofocus on the system here. So it's prioritizing the exposure on my face, and obviously that's why you're getting, you know, some of the really bright highlights up here. Obviously we can see Todd and our model over there. I have to make sure that my arms don't shake too much. But yeah, this is a really exciting experiment for us, and I'm super stoked to see people tuning in. But yeah, let's see what other kind of questions y'all got. Make my phone go the right way. Let's see here. Sean's saying, connection looks solid. Are you using auto ISO for moving between sun and shade? Well, if I can control the gimbal right, yes. Alan's asking, internal battery for the duration of the stream. How is the battery life for live streaming? Right now, so with the testing that I was doing beforehand, which was probably about, I don't know, maybe 15-20 minutes worth of just, you know, setting the gimbal up, getting the stream key and everything all ready to go. Make sure I'm staying on my face. I'm only down 1 bar on the GH5 Mark II, so it's pretty solid for what we got. We're going to turn the camera around and take a look at the photo shoot again. Let's see here. DIY filmmaker, it is very stable, looks great. Yep, it's the joys of a nice high-quality gimbal. Dave's asking, is the sensor on the GH5 Mark II as wide as the GH5S when invoking stabilization? Or was that stupid to ask? No, that's definitely not stupid to ask. It would help if I'm actually pointing the camera where the action is. It's not a stupid question at all. So the GH5 Mark II has in-body stabilization, where the GH5S does not. What that means is that you're using sensor stabilization for this, which means that it's going to be mechanically stabilized. There's no punch in, there's no crop added in that electronic stabilization would normally give you. So it gives you a really nice, kind of solid platform to work with. You can turn the electronic stabilization on. That would be, that gives you a little bit of a crop if you use electronic stabilization, but for this particular setup, I've got the body IBIS turned on and the Ronin gimbal stabilization, so it should be pretty straightforward. Let's see here, all things, AF is looking pretty good for the Mark II. Yes, it is. This camera, as Todd was saying before, this has been such a fun camera to shoot with. I love our full frame cameras, like, don't get me wrong, I love the full frame stuff. But having a smaller camera like this that I can walk around with, be able to do something like this live streaming with, it's so much fun having this kind of platform. And, you know, as we're seeing here, the goal of this particular stream is obviously to end out the month of GH5 Mark II dedicated streams and show you guys how cool this feature is, and hopefully inspire some of you guys to actually get out there and use something like this if you're getting a GH5 Mark II to add that extra level to your production. It's a pretty cool setup. All things, did you just say phase detect AF? No, I did not. This is this is depth from defocus. This is our DFD system in the GH5 Mark II. But nice try. Let's see here. Patrick's saying, would testing different stream quality settings on your end require a full system restart? Yes. So if I wanted to jump from the 8 megabit per second here to the 16 megabit per second, which would be the highest quality, I would have to stop this stream, go back into the app, at least for this case, because I'm out in the middle of kind of park. I would have to go in and change the settings on the app and then have it set over. But truth be told, if you're shooting for YouTube, like we're doing here, if we're shooting for YouTube, you don't necessarily need to be shooting at the 16 megabit per second. And in a lot of cases, you might not actually want to shoot at 16 megabit per second. If you don't have enough of a network, like network strength, it's a little tough to reliably push that much data. Now, I'm lucky that here in Austin, where we are at this park, I've got 5G connection. So that means that I have like 30 or 40 megabit upload speeds. So the 8 megabit is perfectly fine for this. The other thing that you want to look at is if you're streaming on YouTube, the recommended range for 1080-60 is like up to 9 megabit per second. So you do want to be a little careful. If you go higher than it, YouTube will yell at you and give you a bunch of warnings. So, it's really just a matter of what you want to deal with. 8 megabit, as you guys can see from the quality that we're working with here, for 90% of the things that people are going to do, I'd say is probably just fine. But yeah, I mean, you guys are watching it. You guys can decide. Let's see, what other questions y'all got? Oh yes, face detect. Face detect is what we're using. So I'm using the one area plus face, eye, and body detection. And what this allows me to do is have a box that the focusing system will watch on. And then if anything comes into that box, that's where your autofocus system will enable face detect or body detect. So right now, the box that I have on here is actually on Todd. As you guys can see, if I move the camera down, we're looking at Todd. And then if I, kind of shift the camera up a little bit, it shifts around a little bit. Let's see here, what other questions? Contrast Detect AF is working better with the new firmware using DFD. Yep. So this is the focusing system that's been, kind of derived from what we did with the the S5 actually. So this is one of those inherent benefits when you're looking at a Micro Four Thirds camera. Smaller sensor reads out much, much faster than the full frame cameras. So that means that I can get more information piped into the system in the algorithm so that we can, work with the whole system much faster. It really does become a pretty solid choice, especially for someone that's doing something like this, where you're going to be out in a field somewhere filming. Apologize if I'm a little out of breath. This is not a whole lot of weight, but I don't do this often, so, a little bit of fun stuff here. And it's hot, so we're sweating. Let's see here. Alan is asking, are you recording a backup at the same time? For this particular stream, no, I am not. However, that is one of the nice advantages of the GH5 Mark II with this live streaming setup. I can still use the HDMI out from the camera and record a local copy to something like a Ninja 5 or a Video Assist or any of those other recorders that you guys are using. So think for stuff like trade shows. When we start getting back to doing trade shows, and I'm gonna move in the shade. It's hot. So what's that?
Come on, get out here in the heat. No,
all right.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Don't sense some burning yourself up. I'm totally kidding.
All for it. But so, yeah, like, if you're at a trade show and you're getting yourself a, live coverage during an event, it would be really good to have that high quality version saved onto, external recorder so that you can do like a highlight reel later. You have your live copy that goes out and it's great, but then you're able to just have a much higher copy for, more higher end production use maybe. Let's see, what are the questions? Ruckus says, impressive green screen work with that background. No green screen here. We are, for anyone joining, we are downtown, just outside of downtown proper in Austin, Texas, doing a live stream here. But yeah. Let's see here. LUMIX cameras. Will the lens firmware update on the 12-60 have any effect when using an old GH5?
Let's get you out of the sun.
I assume you mean the update that we just published that added the linear focus for cameras like the Mark II. Every update usually does give you guys some improvements. So yeah, it's a pretty It's always worth updating your lenses. Sean's asking, just for clarity's sake, you're streaming from LUMIX Sync app in the background and using YouTube app to monitor stream comments on the same device. So that's actually a really good point. So let me flip the camera around here. All right, so what we're doing here is the LUMIX Sync app allows you to collect the Rtmp and the stream key from YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, whatever platform you're going to use. Or if you're using a custom Rtmp site, you're able to collect that stream key and the URL so that it'll collect it on the phone and then send it and program it into the camera. The app only is acting as a bridge for that information. That means that you're able to, you know, if the app updates and say you're not going to want to do the streaming through the app for some reason or set it up, the app has no impact on whether or not the camera's doing recording or broadcasting. That is solely just in the camera. If only there's a mirror to see your live stream setup. Well, lucky for you, I brought my sunglasses, and they are mirrored finish. So let me go to a little bit brighter light, and you guys will be able to see what it looks like. Maybe you can see. You can see in my right eye. So this is literally just the GH5 Mark II on a Ronin with the XLR1 and the Sennheiser AVX. So, I would love to wear the sunglasses all day, but it's tough to actually see the camera screen while I'm doing that. Let's see.
We're going to go to the flowers over here, get some color in the shot.
All right, we're going to Flowers, everybody. Not Flowers, Texas. That would be a bit of a drive, and I'm pretty sure one battery wouldn't cover that. So,
it would be interesting.
It would be, wouldn't it? I mean, I could do it because the GH5 Mark II does support USB power delivery. So if I had the correct USB power delivery cable and everything, I could do it.
It's a great segue to a feature.
Exactly. There you go. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Sean, as to what we've got set up here. Okay, yeah, that makes much more sense. Cool. Yeah, the whole purpose of the Sync app side of this is just to make it easy for someone that wants to be able to get out and start doing streaming. If you've ever done this before, it's challenging. Especially as you guys can hear me huff and puff because it is hot and I don't normally do this stuff. Usually, as you guys know from watching this, I sit at home at my desk and I do streaming. I gotta get ready for when trade shows start coming back. If everyone likes this kind of format, I would love to do this more often. It's really up to everybody that's watching.
I'm going to put you like right in here, okay?
And just as you know, we were saying before, if anybody has questions about Todd's process, what he's doing here, the vision that he's got in his head, feel free to drop that question in there too. Special edition t-shirt, which I know some people have commented they really, really want. We used to give them out at trade shows here in the US, but obviously we haven't had trade shows for a year. Let's see here, FC, Lumix cameras, is the streaming going back to YouTube via the 5G smartphone? Yes. This is using my Galaxy S21's 5G connection, and I'm on Google Fi service. So that means, you know, I have around, in this spot, it's about 30 to 40 megabit upload. So,
Yeah, and when you look this way,
see, FC, is Todd using AF on near for the flower shoot?
am I using what?
Are you using the AF on custom settings when you're doing a shot like this, or are you just using right out of the camera?
I'm using right out of the camera.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got some things set up that are custom when I'm doing autofocus continuous.
Okay.
I've got a few things on my sensitivity and how fast it responds.
Yeah.
But as far as just straight, like this single is just like out of the camera.
Yeah, cool. So in case you didn't hear that, so it's just AF single, and then in some cases there's different custom settings for different types of shooting and environments. So, you know, it kind of goes to one of those points of, you know, when you're shooting and when you get yourself really comfortable with your camera, you'll start finding different setups that work really, really good for your style of shoot. One person's settings may not always work best for everybody else that's here watching. So let's get this back onto me here. Flip the screen around. All right. Lumix camera's better than you have at home. So I assume what you're saying is you guys like this maybe a little bit better, at least some of you do. Let's see here. Richard's saying, love Austin, hot and humid. I've been to that park in August. Hot, good stuff. Normally it is really, really hot. We have lucked out because, let me spin around here and show you guys. We have got a beautiful day. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it is, you know, kind of humid here, but we've just truly lucked out with the weather. I was nervous originally when I started pitching this idea that we were going to do this kind of shoot, but yeah, we lucked out. I like it. Richard's asking, what metering mode? I always use center weighted metering for 90% of the shoot that I'm doing. Primarily because I'm more of a photographer than a videographer. But for this particular case, I am using the full multimetering that the camera offers so that I can at least balance this out maybe a little bit more than normal. And then on top of that, we're using the Leica 709 color profile. So direct out, you know, don't have to do any, you know, grading to this, obviously, because with YouTube, you really can't. So it is only available while you're doing the, if you're doing the live streaming, you don't have that ability to use the Gimbal's USB control. So hopefully everything's still streaming here. Everything in this park looks good. The one thing I just don't know is if my phone is overheating because it's Texas. But, yeah, there it is. It's back. Let's get this back over on them.
And we're just going to walk across the street. I'm just going to grab video of you walking. And
so I don't know if anybody heard the last comment that I was making, is that when you're using the live streaming functionality, the USB port is disabled for the data transfer. So the gimbal won't work while you're using USB for controlling the camera. So just something to be a little aware of if that's how you normally work and you're doing live streaming. You kind of have to go to the old school way that we used to work. But yeah, again, as you guys got questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I can ramble on forever. But it's really nice. You know, we get some nice weather right here. Temperature's not too bad when we're in the shade or by the water.
back towards me now.
Yeah. So I am assuming that the questions are still there and that everyone is still watching. If not, Henry's asking, sorry, missed what gimbal you're using. I am using the Ronin DJI, or the DJI Ronin RSC2.
We got Sean in the shot. Yay!
Proof that I actually am doing this live like this, right? Hey, what's up, Todd?
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
FC saying he can see Todd using the EVF while walking.
Yes.
Is there any tip that you've got for people that want to shoot like that, or is it just how you've always done it?
It is my personal preference on my style. I like using the EVF. I feel like I'm more connected. Plus, for me, it's also the more points of contact to the body, the more stable the shot.
Oh, yeah.
So when I've got hand here, and against that, I've got 3 solid points that I'm able to work with. And to me, this just feels disconnected when I'm shooting. That's me. That's me. So everybody's different.
Exactly.
If I had a Ronin, like Sean, then maybe that would change. But,
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
but it looks good.
Some of us do get to play with all the toys, which is a nice perk of the job, you know? Redbit, good evening. How are you? Welcome back. But yeah, so if you have just joined us, we are live streaming right from the GH5 Mark II through my mobile device's 5G connection, and we're just out here in the park. A very different live stream than we normally do. Normally, you know, these things are very not well organized, but organized enough, I think, for what everyone is looking for information-wise. But yeah, we got the camera all set up, and yeah. Redbit, is this real-time streaming direct from the GH5 Mark II? Yes, it is. I have the chat on a little bit of a delay, so if you asked a question and I didn't answer it right when you typed it in, I apologize. But yeah, no, this is a really one of the more fun things that I think people will be able to see that the Mark II is going to offer anyone that wants to expand to a newer style of content creation. And I know a lot of people toss the content creator terminology. Yeah, go ahead. We're going to shoot on our Jeep. Probably one of my most favorite vehicles, aside from my motorcycle. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, so you know, kind of as I bang into the gimbal here, one of the cool things with the live streaming functionality, especially with this camera, is that you can add one of these to your kit and be able to do stuff like this for clients that would have cost a ton of money to do otherwise, using, you know, maybe older style technologies. Let's see, I see some other questions that came up here. Flip my phone so I can see them. What camera's Todd using? He is using an S5 and jumping around between the Sigma 24 or 35?
35.
35-1.4.
And the 50-1.8 from us.
Yeah, and the LUMIX 50-1.8. So all LUMIX all the time, or all L-mount all the time. Basil says, is it hot there? Yes, it is hot. I am sweating like a pig. It's only the end of June in Texas. Yeah, it's hot. FC says, dynamic range on the afternoon sun with highlights and shadows are quite awesome. Yes, that's one of the, I think, for someone like myself who does not shoot a whole lot of video. I mean, yes, I sit in front of a camera and I, you know, produce a live stream every week, but I don't go out and, like, I'm not filming projects. I'm not filming clients or, you know, documentaries or anything like that. Having a camera that could easily be able to work for someone who is doing that kind of work, but then also be easy enough to use with very straightforward image quality, it really changes what people can do for getting into this field. A lot of people I know get, you know, kind of maybe put off by how hard it may be, or it seems to be, to get into this kind of thing, but cameras like the Mark II or the GH5 Mark II make it pretty easy to just take the camera, plug it in, and go. Let's see here. Or it's asking, so it's possible to stream to your computer at home and add overlays for Twitch there? I've seen streams from a bicycle where an additional HDMI device was needed and a lot of additional hardware. Yeah, so if you wanted to do something like put overlays, like how we normally have, overlay on the live stream. If you wanted to do that using this, you would have to go through some sort of bridge to bring the footage into it. Rtmp Streaming, which is what this system uses, goes right from the camera into YouTube. So it's basically bypassing normal encoding software. But that's where things like, I believe, Teradek and some of those others could give you some advantages. That would let you plug into like a central server or RTSP type streaming. That would let you feed that footage in and then add your overlays that way. So hopefully that answers your question, Ulrich. I'm actually going to, in a minute, I'm going to put this down because my arm is killing me. Joys of this stuff. But let's take another look at Todd and the shoot.
And I will attest to the fact that this GH5 Mark II works great on like documentary projects. I recently filmed a review video for a local camera store on the 51.8 using this camera, and it was fantastic. I used the 12-60 lens to do the talking parts, and then when all the B-roll was being shot, I actually shot that with the Sirui anamorphic 35-1.8 with this camera, and it came out fantastic. It was great to swap it out and use the different styles of lenses too. It was really good.
Nice.
Solid. Yeah.
Very cool.
The dynamic range.
Oh man. So we are up at about an hour and 40 minutes here, or not an hour and 40 minutes, 40 minutes of streaming. If it was an hour and 40 minutes, I would be very impressed with myself. And for those that are, I know someone asked the question before about battery life while you're doing this kind of streaming. So for the 40 minutes that we've been streaming, plus the probably 20 minutes that I was working with the camera before we started actually broadcasting here, we've only used 2 bars of battery, and it only just clicked down to 2 bars left. So that should give you a good idea that, you're going to be getting, in this case, I'd say I could probably get another 40 minutes to an hour out of this, and it should be pretty sick. JC, does the BGH1 have the processing power and software as the GH5 Mark II that will allow wireless streaming? I'm honestly not sure. I don't know if the BGH1 would get live streaming, but that camera does have the RTSP streaming functionality. So, like I always say, I'll put that into the requests that we make with our engineers and let them know. But yeah, so let's see what other kind of questions we've got here. This kind of feature can produce gas attack. Yes, gear acquisition. Everyone needs new gear, and why not make it a LUMIX GH5 Mark II? Come on. I'm going to put this down on the hood of the Jeep because, like I said, my arm is killing me, and I want to be able to address some questions while everyone's here and wipe some of the sweat from my face. So I'm so stoked that everyone's watching and everyone's kind of tuning in here. Hopefully everyone's, kind of getting a lot out of this. Little recap as to what we've been doing today. So this is the GH5 Mark II. We are using the wireless live streaming functionality that the camera released, the camera has at release, to broadcast direct to YouTube. We'll wait for that.
The joys of live.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this is going right from the camera. It was programmed with the LUMIX Sync app to get the Rtmp URL and to get the stream key for our LUMIX live broadcasts. Takes that into the actual mobile device and then feeds that over into the camera. So the camera is truly standalone for this. You don't need to use the app at all for any of this. You can pre-program all of this stuff on your own before you actually go out. You have a couple of different ways that you can be doing the live streaming. You can be manually entering it in on the actual touch interface of the camera, though I would advise not doing that. Wait for the car. if you're doing something like Facebook for live streaming, that has something like a 30 or 40 character stream key, and if you're entering that in on the mobile device or on the touchscreen, you're probably going to lose your mind. But what's cool is that you're going to have the ability to, with software, load those onto an SD card, plug them into the camera, and then recall them later. So you're able to set up multiple streams, get yourself ready to go, and then not even have to use a mobile device for this at all if you don't want to. In our case, we did use the Sync app, and we're going to wait for this car too. Again, joys of doing this live. This is, again, totally new for us. Hopefully everyone's enjoying this. But yeah, we used the LUMIX Sync app as the kind of bridge to collect all the information and tell the camera what wireless network to connect to. And with the Mark II, that means that I can use the hotspot from my mobile device to actually act as my wireless network. So my mobile device, I'm lucky enough here in Austin, we have some pretty good 5G service here, and it allows me to be able to upload it 1080p 60 frames per second for broadcasting at the 8 megabit per second stream rate. Or if I really wanted to, I could do the 16 megabit per second, but knowing that YouTube is not looking for 16 megabit per second, so you can run into maybe a little bit of challenges if the streaming bitrate is higher than what the platform's looking for. So that's why we're using 8 megabit. It's what it's expecting to see. Let's see here. A couple questions I see came in. Another car passing by. This is a very popular spot because we're right by the water. There's a boat launch right down there. I'm actually going to stand this way so I don't have that crazy green reflection on my face. Well, I still do, but you know, hey. Let's see here. Alan says, Facebook stream key, a nightmare if you need to enter them in a somewhat manually, in a panic. Yes. If you're using, so you can enter in your own Rtmp and stream key through the app. This is where using something like Apple's integration between a laptop and a mobile device for copy-paste is actually really cool. Or like what I did for this, since we already had the event set up, I used Google Keep, since primarily I use Google devices. I put that into my Google Keep, and then it's on my phone within a split second, and I can just copy paste it into the Sync app, and that feeds it over to the camera. Redbit, you need white LUMIX t-shirts for an afternoon like this. Todd and I were just talking about that before. Yes, white t-shirts would be an amazing thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see, JC, can the GH5 Mark II output at full resolution simultaneously via the HDMI while streaming? So that's question one. And can it record a full resolution internally while streaming as well? So the internal recording to the SD card is disabled while you're doing live streaming, but the HDMI feed is open while you're doing the streaming. It's going to be in 1080, so it'll be matching the resolution that you're shooting with, but it's going to be out over HDMI. So you'll still have to, you'll still have a much higher quality that's not going through the online YouTube compression or Twitch compression, whatever platform you're using. So it does still give you a much higher quality master to work with. And yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, JC. Oh yeah. Luckily, no one's jumped in on this stream down here. But with that, we're actually going to call it for today. We've been going for 50 minutes here. I still got 2 bars of battery life on the camera. And yeah, so with this, thank you, Todd, for allowing me to film you and just ramble on around behind you while you're doing a photo shoot.
Yeah, that was great.
We had a couple of people asking if the photos that you took, if there's going to be a place where people can see them.
Sure. I'll put them on my Instagram. I'll share that with you. You can do the same thing. Yeah.
There you go.
I'll
So
even show the video that actually proves that Sean is here and doing this live. And I went from the model over to Sean. We'll put that video up there too.
So yeah, so that's a really kind of important point. Make sure to go follow Todd on all the different social media platforms. It's you want to give out all your handles for everybody?
Main thing is Instagram at Todd White.
There you go.
2 Ds.
Nice and simple.
Nothing elaborate.
Yeah.
And of course, follow you.
Oh yeah. Follow us, LUMIX Live, LUMIX USA, LUMIX, pretty much all the different social platforms. We have both our global channels and our regional channels. So if you're joining us from overseas, outside of the United States, make sure to follow your local LUMIX channel. If you're here in the United States, make sure to follow LUMIX Camera's YouTube channel here. The one that you're on, obviously. You wouldn't be watching it if you weren't on that channel. Duh. The heat's getting to me, man. And then, yeah, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We are on Twitter as well, all that fun stuff. Outside of that, I want to remind everybody that the GH5 Mark II, you still have a short opportunity left in the United States for the pre-ordering of the camera. If you did pre-order the camera, make sure to follow up. In the United States, we are giving out the LUMIX Pro Service Platinum Series with the camera's pre-order for 1 year. So you definitely want to take advantage of that if you've been looking at getting that service platform. If you're not pre-ordering the camera, why? All kidding aside, if you're not and you're still looking at the LUMIX Pro services, as always, we have a red tier and a platinum tier in the United States. We have other levels available in different regions. You can check out lumix-pro.us if you're in the United States to get information about it and see if you want to get yourself registered. Outside of that, I think I've rambled on enough, and I think I'm good to call it for today.
Sounds good to me.
It's hot, I need air conditioning, and I need water.
Amen.
So, thank you all for watching. Join us next week. We're going to be back with our AMA sessions. So, all the questions on other cameras that are out there that we haven't addressed over the last couple of weeks, make sure to either send those to us at lumixlive@us.panasonic.com, or you can message us in the comments of this video. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. It always helps with the algorithms, all that fun stuff. If you're not subscribed, hopefully this was a good enough video to get you to subscribe to the LUMIX Cameras channel. We put out content like this every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be an exciting year as we move through the summer, especially now with a tool like this to bring you guys LUMIX Live from not just my apartment. So with that, again, thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing everybody next week. And, yeah, take care. Now's when I wait for the stream to actually catch up.